Hello, hello, hello. So we're getting started. Let's see if I can remember how to set all this up. It's been a long time since one of those streams. Apologies if I get confused. It's like I've forgotten. I've been in front of the camera all week, but I've forgotten how to do this. Let's send it to Twitter and Discord. Daily chart. It's not been quite daily. Go. And yes, of course, today you will be able to see a demo of the chart stuff that I've done on the plane, which is really cool. Also, I think, anyway. And since I'm the one building it, my opinion matters a great deal. So there we are. We'll see if anybody dials in today. It's certainly by no means guaranteed, given that we haven't been doing this for about like a week and a half. So let me turn down the music, and the music is gone. So welcome to the not quite daily NFT market health analysis, coming back to you now that I'm back from Dubai. I'm hoping to be able to continue doing it daily. I'm going to Geneva tomorrow evening, but hopefully I'll be able to continue doing it daily there. I have a spare screen and hopefully a decent enough connection to do it. We'll see. I'll give it a try. Either way, I won't be filming all day long, so it'll be easier to hopefully like get this done. And I noticed there's at least one viewer right now, so that's nice. So not everybody has forgotten about this completely. So we're going to look at the charts. We haven't looked at them for a couple of weeks. There's going to be some interesting commentary to make. And if we look at our beautiful charts, we can see that, well, they haven't been doing particularly well since I've been on holiday. On holiday. I wish I was on holiday. No, I was working. But since I went, I think it was about a week and a half ago, so it was around here that I went, and look at what is done since then. Basically, not much good. We've had the threads updating us on this, but not the videos. And today we have the videos, and we can see that yes, we're still heading down. There's our SMAs just heading downwards. Yes, right now is going up a little bit, but you know, the overall trend is clearly down in the top 10. It's clearly down in Zeneca Old. It's also clearly down, let's face it, in Zeneca New, even though it's kind of peaked above there. You know, let's be opposite, like, let's be realistic here. Is it really going to start? Is Zeneca New really going to start climbing all by itself? Very unlikely. As for the Women-Led Projects Index, hello JJ. As for the Women-Led Projects Index, it does look like it's shooting up through the sky. But however, if we look at the underlying data, which we should always do, which is why you should always have reports that where you can look at the underlying data, we see that whilst the slight bump in Zeneca New is well spread across multiple projects, we can see immediately that what's happening in the women-led projects is rather less distributed. I mean, volumes there have been absolutely abysmal for quite a while now, and now there's this pump. It's all due to this one project. Of course, this old non-dynamic charts model doesn't quite allow us to do that, but luckily, if I just load up I can just use, I already built this before, so this we already have. We just look at the women-led projects here, and we will see instantly that, well, almost instantly that, oh, there's our project that's pumping here, and that project is Fierce NFT. So is Fierce NFT like really doing that great? I mean, it's definitely getting a lot of volume right now. But if we look at it on OpenSea, which I think we need to, well, actually, there should be a link directly to OpenSea here. No, anyway, if we look here, we can see that, okay, it's getting some volume, but floor price 0.002. This is hardly going to push the market to a new high. I mean, this is a project that was dead, that for some reason has come back to life. Why? I don't know. Maybe something to do with the conference or something. I don't know. But either way, we know because we can see the chart, because we can see what is actually happening. So actually, no, this index is probably not pumping quite as dramatically as it appears. I suspect without that, it would just be going back down and following this rather regular trend that it's had for quite some time now, for a good few weeks. So let's look at the top 10. And there, if we look at it in context and we look at the price line as well, we can see that prices have come back down as well. If this was a turnaround, it's not a very convincing turnaround. It seems to be going back down now. Maybe it will bounce around this level again. I don't know. It's interesting. So here we have this 1.8 thing, which is a normalized index, because that's the way I did it at the time. With this stuff, I now have a different kind of index. Now, bear in mind, this is not a dynamic top 10, so we can't look at the overall we can't look at the shape of the overall thing is not quite as relevant. But if we look here, we can see, because it tells us that, you know, the raw data is the actual number of sales in each of those 4-hour chunks rather than just the SMA. And we can see that, you know, number of sales are pretty damn low, gone down all the way down to 10. And these are like more, you probably can't see everything here because of the screen size. Why is it going outside of the box? Anyway, yeah, it's looking a little bit not great. I mean, it went all the way down to, yeah, about 10 here. And what was I looking at this? Yeah, so that's what the 1.8 means here. It went down to, like, without looking at the moving average there, looking at the actual instant sale. At one point, there was only 10 sales in a period of 4 hours across 10 top 10 projects, which is pretty dramatically bad. And it's bounced back up to about 30, but it's like, so still just basically kind of not doing great. And that's what this 1.8 means. And will it go lower than this? It certainly could. It just needs to hang out at 10 for, like, you know, a couple of, like, 2-3 of these 4-hour chunks, and then this thing will drop down even lower. So this is definitely not the lowest it can get. It could realistically get here just by continuing to do stuff that is done before. And of course, we can see that the prices have also followed. So in terms of market recovery, we're definitely not there yet. As far as I can tell, my sense is that this is a downtrend like this. And, you know, like we're maybe switching to kind of this, but, you know, it's not like, I wouldn't draw this line and say this is what's happening now. Maybe it is, but it seems very bold to draw this line at this point. I think it's more likely that we're still just, like, you know, oscillating between these two lines and going down. But we'll see. Like, the charts will tell us. It doesn't matter what I guess. It matters what the market actually does. If we have a look at Seneca Old, we can see that this one has been making new lows. Yeah, I mean, the prices are continuing to sort of flatten out to a very low level. It's clearly trending down. It's not an index that's recovering. I repeat again, as usual, that, you know, I'm really keen to find us some new, more dynamic indices. Like Seneca Old has really served its time. It's been like we've been using it for about 9 months. It's probably not super relevant, but it's still useful as a kind of barometer. I think the overall picture here is not as helpful because we expect it to just kind of trend downwards. But the fact that it's trending downwards in the short term is not a good sign either. Similarly for Seneca New, which is also trending sharply downwards in the short term, also with this kind of like very clear pattern of like zigzagging on the way down, and also has this kind of like, you know, long-term drop, which we'd expect, but we wouldn't expect it to be quite so sharp. So this recent drop is very sharp, and it's accompanied by a price drop as well. So it's all looking pretty bad. How am I getting this? This is the one I look at normally. Yeah, so it's not great. No, I've just lost one of our lights. That's also not great. Sorry about that. Hopefully it will stay on. This light is rather important. Otherwise I'll have to open the blinds or something. Anyway, if we finally look at the women-led projects, we can see there's this really quite regular pattern of like up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, just going down. With this beautiful straight line down here and a kind of almost straight line at the top there, although I can't draw that, which is only broken by this because of that project, which is at 0.02 pumping. So, I mean, once that finishes pumping, I expect us to continue going down like dramatically there'll probably be a sort of like ridiculous drop here. Although how much further can it drop? Well, it's at 1.41. It can drop to 0, I suppose. If we look here and look at the women-led projects here, we can see that. So if we look at the dash line, I'll go into more detail about how this works. But if we look at the dash line, we can see they went down all the way as well to down to 10 transactions in 1 4-hour period. And it stayed there a bit longer than... so it could always go to 0 transactions. Maybe we'll stop trading altogether. Nobody will buy those projects anymore. I hope not. I own a bunch of them. But, you know, it could happen. Let's have a look at crypto as well before we really have a look at the new charting engine. By the way, as usual, if you have any questions, whether about this or about the new charting engine or whatever, feel free to ask them. So if we look at crypto, we see that the situation is not particularly cheerful here either. Oops. Sorry about that. In fact, actually at this point, let me switch to this so it's easier to see more. Oops. That's not what I wanted to do. This is what I wanted to do. Sorry, I'm still getting used to my own setup here. And yeah, that's nice. We have a nice big view of everything. And we can see here that, like, so it's interesting that I drew this line here, which is, you know, the, as far as I can tell, the sort of ceiling there, the resistance that was mapped by these 3 candles. There were these five candles here that touched on this line. Usually if 3 candles touch on the line, it's considered valid, whatever the hell valid means. Here we have 5 touch points on this line. So it feels like quite a valid line. And look at it, it's kind of bounced off this line just now. It stayed there, it hovered, it went down. It's not touching exactly, but like this line seems to have some validity based on how the market is reacting. And right now, that's the line to beat to get out of the downtrend. So as long as we haven't gone past that line, we're still like in the downtrend that started back in April. And it was interesting for me to note that it went and it started, looked hopeful like it was going to go there, but that's where people decided to sell. Market psychology is always interesting. I don't know why people decided to sell, but maybe they were looking at that line and they were like, oh, it's not going to make it past because the market is not good enough. So that's where they decided to start selling. And it dumped really hard on that day, on the 7th of June, and then bounced back up, but then still dumped from here. Now, if we break through this line, that would be really good news if we sort of bounce up and we actually manage to break through. Although I would expect, because what usually happens is kind of like what happened here when we broke through this line. There's a big rise and then there's a big fall, and then it needs to hold that line as support before it starts climbing again, which it did here, but then it didn't get past this one. So if we do get past this one, I would expect there to be a big rise, but then expect there to be a big fall afterwards, and only buy in if you see it hold that line as support and resist and start going back up. That's the time to buy, not when it first breaks, when it actually holds it as support. That's a sort of a crypto trading lesson. I don't do that much trading, but if I was buying some more Bitcoin, I would wait until it breaks through and then holds it as support before buying. So yeah, I mean, on the converse side, if it breaks underneath this line, which it just held as support over here, then I think it's going to drop even more. We could very well go towards 20k. So we're really in interesting times in terms of crypto. So right, that's it for crypto. Let's have a look at these charts. So let's let it adjust somehow. Let's start with the current top 10. So right now, this is the same tags as we've been looking at in previous. So I've got like tags here with like static collections of projects. So this is not a dynamic collection of projects. It's not like, so our top 10 here is based on a dynamic, like, you know, this chart here is based on a dynamic collection of projects that changes over time. Like I think Azuki came in somewhere around here and came out somewhere around here when it's, you know, like rugged, and that's a dynamic index. These are static indices, but they, like the current top 10 reproduces what is currently in the top 10 on the other side. So we can't look at the historical values here too much, but we can look at the recent stuff, like that is like going to be relatively right. And look at that, we have what's called a brush chart here at the bottom, where instead of having to have just 4 charts, we can zoom in and out wherever we want. We can like drag and have an arbitrary period mapped if it gets a bit too messy. So the dotted purple line is the raw data, That's basically the equivalent of this bar chart, but as a dotted line instead. Well, if we don't want to see this because it's a bit too messy, look at that. We can just click on this and boom, it disappears. How wonderful is that? So we can drag this around, see different bits. It automatically adjusts. It's a logarithmic scale. So this thing supports having a logarithmic scale, but it's not normalized. So that means that we can see, like, you know, that the average is, this is still the 1 day moving average, but you can see the 1 day moving average of number of sales around here was 43. Around here it was 214. It tells us the values each time, allows us to pinpoint things really accurately. Soon I'm also going to add annotations to this, so I'll be able to add an event and show that, for example, I know that, let's see, I know that this was the other side mint. I know that this was the ApeCoin release. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was the ApeCoin release. I know that this was the Ukraine war starting, and I can add these flags there, and we can kind of see this, and anybody will be able to see this by just clicking a checkbox and saying show annotations, and it will show all the annotations. And I think I'll probably have major and minor annotations. So there'll be stuff like, you know, the Ukraine war or other side mint or so ApeCoin release or other side mint would be major things, whilst, you know, Azuki rugging might be a minor annotation just for information. Not everybody will want to see that. But yeah, I'm really pleased with how this is going. Obviously, you can switch between different indices here. And I coded most of this in the plane. Like, obviously, the bigger indices take a little bit longer to load. But let's give them a second. And once they're loaded, they should be reasonably fast. Like, and again, you can sort of zoom in and out to whatever period you want. You can hide the raw data if it's a bit too messy. You can hide also the 30-day SMA and the 7-day SMA and just look at this thing, which is, this is the yellow line on this chart, right? It's the same line as this, just it's on a different graph, and it's not normalized from 0 to 10 anymore. It's now, this is going from, you know, 32 to 1024 in this case. And you may ask, why doesn't it look quite exactly the same as, say, this, for example? So if we go from March, let's take the, like, I actually haven't done this yet. So let's take this from March and say it should look similar to this. And it doesn't exactly, partly because the ratio, like the aspect ratio of the chart is not quite the same. So if we adjust the aspect ratio, that's going to help. But also because this one doesn't include wrapped ETH offers, and it doesn't deal with batched transfers very well. So I think this one underestimates the sales sometimes. So that might make it like like that might cause a change of shape, basically. We do see that the shapes here are more pronounced. Like, it's interesting that this here is a higher peak than over here in this, because we see this peak here is the same as this one, followed by this one, which is the same as this one, followed then by this, which maps to this one, but isn't quite the same shape. I mean, I'll be investigating that some more, doing some comparisons and things like that, but I don't expect them to look exactly the same. And interestingly also, like, this peak is higher. First of all, this is top 10, and I'm looking as an echo. Let me look at the right chart, first of all. That might help. So disable the raw data, and let's have it from March 15th. And again, feel free to ask any questions if you're also interested in geeking out about this. So March. There you go. Okay, so now let's see. We have this peak is here. This second peak looks much smaller here, and the third peak looks higher, which is interesting. I expect that this might be due to more batch sales and stuff happening around there, more batch purchases or wrapped ETH offers or something. Like somebody with Punk9059 just posted a thread about how before market turnarounds, there's often a lot of batch sales that happen, and then the price dips some more, and then it starts turning around. This is just before the market turnaround, so it makes sense that there'd be a lot more batch sales here, and then it turns around. So it's things like this, like we're going to get a more accurate picture. Basically, between those two things, by the way, I trust this engine more. This one has more issues. It does, as I said, it doesn't pick up wrapped ETH. and it doesn't pick up group purchases. Like it groups group purchases as a single purchase. Why is this? No, like, okay. So, oops. So yeah, I trust this engine much better. It also, yeah, like, because it's dual sourced, it picks up from OpenSea the wrap teeth offers, which Moralis is not able to actually pick up. And yeah, can't draw on this yet, but I'll be able to add annotations. I'm going to do dynamic indices. What's going to be really interesting, I think, and I'm really curious to see what people do, is once I open access to other people can then build their own indices here and track their own indices and say, like, okay, this is what's happening to the index that I care about, or this is what's happening to my portfolio. How does it compare to, like, that would be interesting to compare your index to another index as well. There's, like, the sky's the limit. This is loads of fun, basically. I just hope I manage to do it in a way that doesn't just break the server just by opening it. But, I'll figure it out. I'm good at optimizing things. And as usual, we can scroll down and see the underlying data, so we never make the mistake of not knowing what is actually underlying this data. So yeah, I mean, that's basically what I built over that plane flight. It might seem like not much, but it takes a long time to also, there's little things like, for example, when I drag this, it automatically readjusts the Y scale to make this as useful as possible. Before that, it would just start from 1, 2, 4, and then finally 8, 16, and so on. Here it goes and adjusts it, and also keeps this looking quite nice. And there's lots of little things like that make a big difference, that take a long time to get right. I actually had internet connection on the plane, and that really helped me too. So in case you don't know a coder, you might be surprised to find out that programming mostly involves searching Google and finding Stack Overflow threads that explain how to do the thing that you're trying to do. That's a very critical skill as a programmer. But yeah, okay, I feel like I'm getting to the end of this, basically. Yeah, the brush chart was really interesting to build and to get working. It didn't work for all sorts of reasons, but it works now. So that's really cool. And we can, do a brush chart over the entire length of the market if we want. And because all the data is loaded, this is just done live on thing. Like, the whole data has been loaded at the beginning. Does anybody have any questions about this? We don't have to. Let me put on the music. It does mean that I can't zoom back up to see my face really big on the screen, which is okay. I think I'll survive without my face really big. Cool. Yeah. So I'm rather pleased with this. I'm gonna try to do some more update, maybe not this weekend, because I feel like I'm all coded out after yesterday, but definitely when I'm in Switzerland, maybe I will do some this weekend. I'll see. It's in some ways I need a break from this as well. But I'm really keen to get this out, get this. It's when you look at this time scale as well, the 1 day SMA becomes a little bit too noisy as well. So then you might look at the 7 day SMA as your main source of data. And I guess as time scales become longer and longer, we might end up looking just at the 30 day SMA. And that would be our sense. Which, the 30 day SMA tells us that the market has done pretty much what I've been saying it's done. I mean, okay, no, this is the top 10. This is the current top 10. It's missing some data at the beginning. So I think the spike here would be a bit higher with the proper stuff, but it's basically essentially trading sideways since August. And that's including the fact that some... Oh yeah, and these are faded, by the way. In case you don't know what fading means, if I included all the mints in here, there'd be massive spikes from the mints. And so what I do is to make the chart more helpful. I make projects take 20 days to come into the index. They don't just appear straight away with their full mint force. They take 20 days to come in. So this is all without mints distorting everything. Otherwise, it would just go stupidly high. Cool. Right. Okay. Well, I think that's it for today. So thank you very much for dialing in. And I'll see you tomorrow for another one of these, maybe with an update on the reports dashboard. As in on this thing, whatever we call it. And maybe not. We'll see. But either way, thank you very much for your attention. I'll be recording a podcast with Gabriella later today, so feel free to download that and listen to that if you feel like it later. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend. I hope it's sunny where you are and you enjoy life and everything. Take care. Bye-bye.